interesting, guys. I've got Alison Wenzel tonight on Conversations with Commodores. She's been at Vanderbilt since 2004. She is the Associate Athletic Director for Student Athletic Development. Not only is that a mouthful, she's got a huge responsibilities. Allison, welcome to the program. Thank you for making some time for us tonight. We got some good stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. You wear a bunch of hats. You have a lot of responsibilities developing and getting our student athletes ready for the next phase of life. But before I butcher any of those things, share a little bit with our viewers what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. So from a student athlete development standpoint, we have a lot of different buckets that we work in to help the student athletes maximize their potential. So we work within the leadership realm. So we try and develop leadership opportunities and different pathways for them. We do social impact, which is the way that we talk about community service and giving back and the things they do out in the community. Then we also have our name, image, likeness space that we're navigating along with the rest of the NCAA and other schools. How do we best position our student athletes to maximize themselves in that space as well? And then we also have our career development piece, which is where we really hope that we help the student athletes turn their passions into professions. Whenever their athletic career may be over, what is that next step? So those are just a few of the things that we do within student athlete development.
That's all? You mean that's all? If I get this, so if we see student athletes volunteering in the community, that comes in part through your department.
Likely it will. We do have some teams that do team specific activities that are not for all student athletes, but we help facilitate a lot of those opportunities.
And if we see an AJ Swan out there promoting a company in the community, that could be, again, through your department.
So we've provided a lot of education around name, image, likeness for the student athletes. We're not facilitating deals. Let's be sure that everybody's clear on that. We are providing education on what does it look like from a financial literacy standpoint. Like all this money might be coming in. Let's think about taxes. Let's think about what that looks like. How are you planning? How are you saving? How are you doing all those things? What does your personal brand mean? So a lot of things on brand workshops. We've been really fortunate to partner with the Wondry on campus, a great campus partner, to provide NIL studios for our student athletes that are interested in working one-on-one with somebody to go through their brand and what does that look like. The Owen Graduate School has also partnered with us on that to provide some MBA students to work with our student athletes in that way. So not facilitating deals, but helping them figure out what they'd like to explore and who they want to align with as well.
But it's the education part that gets them ready for those things. And that, and frankly, it should have dawned on me that's what you guys do. And then the third part, I think that you had mentioned, and this is after they're done with their education at Vanderbilt and their eligibility from a sports standpoint, you're getting them ready for the next 40 or 50 years, hopefully, on that path. And frankly, Allison, I'm thrilled at what your department does. And to be clear, we're not just talking about the major sports that get all the publicity. We're talking about all sports, aren't we, from a varsity standpoint?
Yes.
How many, if you know, and now kind of putting you on the spot, how many student athletes do we have right now approximately across all sports?
Sure, around 350, give or take.
Well, that's a pretty fair number right there.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Now, in November, you guys again made some headlines. Well, specifically a new initiative that was announced, the Ingram Center. And I want you to share a little bit about that. We're kind of going across the board, but we're going to come back and dive into some of these things. But tell us about the new initiative that Mr. Ingram was so gracious to endow or to.
Yeah. So now we have the Ingram Center for Student Athlete Success, and due to a generous donation from John Ingram, a lead gift with our Vandy United campaign, so thankful for him and for that donation. The Ingram Center our tagline is equip student athletes with resources to maximize their potential for unmatched post-grad preparation. So that's what we strive to do each and every day for all the different components of the Ingram Center. And really what it is a lot of our student-facing areas. So we have our enrollment and transition program. So that's one of our staff members that's bringing our student athletes into Vanderbilt and getting them situated. We're getting them enrolled, transitioning them, all the things. And then we have student athlete development and student services. And a component of student athlete development is our career services. So they're kind of helping our student athletes find that next destination. So we welcome them in, and then we deliver them to their next destination. And student services is all of our academic support. So also helping our student athletes along their academic pursuits as well.
Wow. I love hearing that. That is such an important component of any student athlete's existence or time. They're only on campus 4 or 5 years for the most part. And I've talked to so many alums, sports alums, mainly football in this space here, about maximizing their time, using those 4 or 5 years to get ready for the next 40 or 50 years, because it is such a minuscule percentage who go on to play professional on the professional ranks. And even those who do, that time is still a very small window. It could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 10 years if they're extremely lucky.
Sure.
So getting out of Vanderbilt with all of these tools, I think that's just wonderful. But this was announced in November. So is it just getting off the ground, or is it something you've had in place, but now it's got a formal name to it?
Absolutely. So all of these components have always been there, but now we have the opportunity to collaborate a little bit more and make sure that we're streamlining the process for the student athletes. So all these resources are readily available, and we're providing all these opportunities for them to take advantage of.
Well, let's say, let me give you an example, and maybe you can kind of walk us through. Let's say I'm a female tennis player, and I just graduated early from high school, and now I'm enrolled in Vanderbilt as of this semester, and I'm coming over to either meet with you or somebody on the staff. What is that going to look like for that student athlete to get her moving in that direction?
Absolutely. So she'll be welcomed in by Ricky Thrash, who's our assistant AD for enrollment and transition programs. Walked her through all the steps. What does she need to do to get ready to come to Vanderbilt? Okay, she's here, she's ready. She's going to meet with her student services coordinator from an academic standpoint, make sure all those classes are lined up with, maybe if she's already declared, that's great. If she hasn't, we have different opportunities to explore majors within student services as well. So looking at that now, freshman year is pretty overwhelming. We understand and recognize that. So campus actually does an amazing job with something called Vanderbilt Visions, which really kind of gets all of the Vanderbilt first year students accommodated, kind of to know what classes are like, what resources are available. So we work in tandem with Visions and kind of just help re-emphasize everything that they're doing from that standpoint. But then when this tennis player is ready to start looking at social impact opportunities, they would come and talk with Jax Collins, who is one of our folks within student athlete development that runs that. And then when she's ready to think about career development, she will talk to Amari Dryden, our director of career development, to look at what that might look like from an internship standpoint, maybe the summer after her first year. And then there's programs building on everything that happens that first year for sophomore, junior, and senior until we've got them graduated and either with a full-time job or grad school or playing whatever sport they're playing.
Allison, I can't tell you how none of this, either it was in place in a certain extent when I was in school and I didn't appreciate it or realize it, or it's just been developed since I was in school in the late 80s. Regardless, I think it's a wonderful thing that is offered. I'm wondering out loud, is any of these services made known to the athletes, the prospective student athletes, as they're being recruited?
Absolutely. So the Ingram Center for Student Athlete Success, we have materials available for coaches to utilize during the recruiting process. We meet with a lot of our recruits that come on campus to talk about the different opportunities available. Eugene Henderson, who is our assistant AD for student services, he and his staff do a phenomenal job talking all recruits. And then when we get them on campus, our student athletes through what is the academic life at Vanderbilt like? Because I mean, it's a struggle. This is a hard school, and we know that, but we have all these different opportunities available to them to help them succeed, like our learning services. We have Tyler Parmenter, who's over our learning services. He does a fantastic job working with our student athletes that need some of those learning services resources. And then we have a tutoring program as well. So that's available to all student athletes for any of the classes that they may need some extra tutoring in. So just thinking through all the different resources that are available for our student athletes to succeed, we're putting them in a good space to succeed with all these different resources.
Fantastic. Now, we all know that there are plans for McGugin to be leveled and rise again. But currently, are you housed in McGugin, or are you somewhere else on campus?
Yeah, so the Ingram Center is within McGugin, but we are all still in separate spaces from a student athlete development standpoint, and then a student services and enrollment and transition programs. So once new McGugin happens, we'll all be in the same space. For all of our former players, you probably are familiar with the Hendricks room, where the student athletes eat dinner or eat their meals. So the hope is that the Ingram Center will become like how the student athletes say, I'm going to Hendricks. Well, I'm going to Ingram Center to get help with whatever they might need help with on any given day.
So really, a student athlete could end up spending, if they're not in class or asleep, they could spend the majority of their day at McGugin for the sport that they're playing, as well as for anything else academic or employment potential related.
Absolutely. We're excited.
Well, I want to ask you, just keeping in line with our example, our young freshman enrollee tennis player. Are there requirements, either as a student athlete at Vanderbilt as a whole, or per sport, maybe the coach has a requirement, that each of these services that you've mentioned, the educational components of NIL, et cetera, are those requirements, or is it strictly voluntary for the student athletes to participate?
Sure. We have lots of different mandatory programming along the lines from the NIL component. A lot of that education, the baseline education, was mandatory, but then we have some student athletes that aren't interested in NIL. So we do have some kind of choose your own adventure paths, where if they self-select and want to do some of these things like the NIL studios, that's not mandatory. We want somebody that wants to be there to be a part of that. But we do provide kind of baseline education on a lot of different topics that would be mandatory for the student athletes.
You know, again, that's that component, or that part of, I hear from so many alums, I wish I would have taken advantage of more things that were available to me.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So we recognize time is a crunch, right? So we try and do a lot of our programming around the student athlete schedule. We have great campus partners that will come at 7 o'clock at night to do programming, because that's the time that works. So we try and make it as accessible as possible for them.
Oh, that's just fantastic. All right, Allison, without giving away any confidences or names, what about some success stories where you've seen former or current student athletes achieve some of those goals that are away from their sport?
Absolutely. I'm actually going to give names because it's okay. So one of our former football players, Cody, he developed Turner's Heroes, which I think many of you are familiar with. So, and this was pre-NIL and all of that. And I wonder where this would have gone if we were in that space already. But Cody came to us with the idea of, I want to do a nonprofit and I want to honor Turner, but I don't know what this looks like. What are my next steps? What should I do? So again, I've mentioned the Wondery already, but they had some different drop-in hours of different CEOs of nonprofits around Nashville. And so we encouraged Cody to go to one of those drop-in hours. He had a great meeting. They kind of developed a plan of how he could start a nonprofit. And then we as an athletic department supported him in that. And we still do things with Turner's Heroes. And that's just been an amazing kind of success story, to where he's also hosted some of our student athletes as interns as a part of Turner's Heroes. So it's kind of a full circle opportunity. So Cody is one of the great success stories. Cody's in law school right now. We're so excited for him to be there.
I think he's at Duke, maybe.
Yeah.
Cody's been on our show, and each September I think when Turner's either birthday or the anniversary date of it may be his death. I'm not sure what the date of recognition, but we always promote Turner's Heroes on here. And I see just now knowing Cody, he's doing some great things. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. I think Tony Kemp is another great success story from baseball. He's come back a few times and spoken from a, how do you get involved from a social impact standpoint with his foundation. So we love to have alumni that want to come back and engage in that way with our student athletes. Then kind of giving an Ingram Center success story, or what kind of the template could be. We have a former swimmer that graduated undergrad in 3 years, made the most of her time, did all the things she could do, social impact, just very involved. Then went on to get her master's in from ON within 4 years. So everything was kind of within that 4-year window. And then she came back and recruited for her current company to hire student athletes. So I think that template is, can we make the most of our student athletes experience while they're here? And then they want to come back and help former or current student athletes in whatever way they can. So that's the goal, is that we're creating an amazing experience while they're here that they want to give back later with their time, with whatever that might look like, but just to benefit the current student athletes.
Love all three of those stories. And I know that the Black and Gold Club is trying to get as many varsity sport alums in there and promoting whatever it is that they do professionally to encourage those internships, those job opportunities, or even mentorships. That's I know that Chris Griffin works very hard, and there's many. I guess I don't know what the title is, but former alums there's somebody assigned to each sport who participated in that sport as representatives there. So I know they're doing some good things. Well, Allison, we're getting close to the end, and I love what I'm hearing, and I appreciate all your hard work, but I want to know what alums can do to support your endeavors, to support these student athletes, obviously staying within the parameters of the requirements of the NCAA and compliance. But what not former alums, but what can alums do to support this?
Absolutely. So you mentioned Chris a few times. He and Amari, our director of career development, have been working diligently on growing our athlete network. So having current and former student athletes sign up on there, because we post a lot of opportunities there, from engaging with our current student athletes, coming back for a career panel or coming back for a networking event. We also did something in the fall called Stella Summit, where we invited alumni to be table captains at a mental health summit for our female student athletes. That's coming soon for our male student athletes this spring. But just different ideas like that, different opportunities to engage with our current student athletes. Always need, if there's any Nashville-based alumni, we always need internship opportunities for our student athletes during the summer. But we also really want to kind of elevate that program and provide some project-based internships for those that can't do a summer internship. So looking at kind of changing up how internships look for those that still need some work experience, but may not be able to do that full summer internship.
Getting involved, showing up. Just being in the moment. Allison, I can't thank you enough for sharing what you guys are doing. I think it is not promoted enough in our circle, so that's why I wanted you to come on tonight and share that. We wish you nothing but success. You certainly can reach out to our group anytime if you have specific needs. We'll see if we can provide that help for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Guys, again, every Tuesday night, Conversations with Commodores. We've got some more awesome guests lined up in the upcoming weeks. I wanted to say thank you for all of those who showed up. What is today? Tuesday. So I did this Sunday night. I showed the Perry Wallace Triumph story. So we had a lot of people to show up. It will remain in the discussion thread. So just scroll down. And then sometime in February, I'm going to show the show, and I'll let you guys know. But again, thank you, Allison. Hang on before we hang up here, and we'll catch you guys another night. Anchor down.
Thank you.